Hi, today I'll be presenting my case brief on Tinker versus DeMoore Independent Community School District from 1969. This case is one of the most significant Supreme Court ruling concerning students' free speech rights in schools, and it's set a precedent that continues to influence educational law and students' rights today. What makes it so important is that the first time the court directly said, yes, students are young, but they are also citizens with constitutional rights. When we think about schools, we often think of discipline, structure, and rules, but this case forces us to ask, where do we draw the line between maintaining order and protecting free expression? Let me take you back to the 1960s. This was a period of huge political and cultural change in the United States. The civil rights movement was underway. Protests against segregation was happening, and most importantly, for this case, the Vietnam War was dividing the country. In December of 1965, a group of students in Des Moines, Idaho, including siblings John and Mary Beth Tinker, ages 15 and 13, decided to take part in a peaceful protest. Their plan was simple. They would wear black armbands to school as a silent protest against the Vietnam War and to support a proposed truce during the holiday season. But schools officials got wind of the plan. Fearing that armbands might stir up the conflict or distract them from learning, the district quickly opted a policy that banned armbands specifically. What's interesting here is that other forms of political expressions, like campaign buttons, were still allowed. This showed the rule was armed directly as silencing this particular message. When the students refused to remove their armbands, they were suspended and told not to return until they complied. The Tinker family believed this punishment violated their children's constitutional rights, so they filed a lawsuit. After losing at a lower level of court, the case made its way to the Supreme Court, where the justices had to consider, do students really have the same free speech rights as adults? The big question was, did the school district violate the students' First Amendment right to free expression by prohibiting them from wearing armbands as a form of symbolic protest? This wasn't just about a piece of bad cloth. It was about whether schools could silence students simply because administrations were uncomfortable with their message. It's also important to remember the timing. The Vietnam War was extremely controversial, and the armband symbolized unpopular opinion in many communities. So the court had to balance the rights of students against the school's responsibility to maintain order. In a 7-2 decision, the Supreme Court sided with students. Justice Abe Fortes, writing for the majority, delivered one of the most famous lines in educational law. It can hardly be argued that either students or teachers shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. The court said that wearing an armband was a form of symbolic speech, nonverbal expression that communicates a message, and therefore it was protected under the First Amendment. What was this decision so powerful was the reasoning behind it. The court emphasized that the school had to publish the students not because of actual disruption, but because of fear of disruption. Since there was no evidence that the armbands caused fights, walkouts, or prevented learning, the ban was unconstitutional. Of course, not everyone agreed. Justice Hugo Black wrote a strong dissent saying that allowing students to challenge school authority in this way would weaken discipline and encourage disobedience. He believed the ruling out opening the door to chaos in classrooms. His perspective highlights the ongoing debate, should schools prioritize order and authority, or should they prioritize students' freedoms? The impact of Tinker versus Moore cannot be overstated. The court established the sustainable disruption test, which is still used today. This means schools can only restrict student speech if they can show that the speech would cause material and sustainable disruption to the learning environment. The decision made clear that schools are not zones where constitutional disappears. Instead, they are places where democratic values should be practiced and learned. This case also shaped how later students' speech were decided. For example, in a Morris versus Frederick in 2007, also known as Bong Hits for Jesus case, the court said schools could prohibit speech promoting illegal drug use. Even with these limitations, Tinker endures at the foundation case protecting students' rights. Anytime there's a debate about whether a school can discipline a student for what they post online, what they wear, or how they protest, Tinker cited. Think about it today. Students use social media to express political views, participate in walkouts to grow gun violence, and organize climate change demonstrations. All these actions are protected at least in a part because of the Tinker decisions. It confirmed the symbolic speech like wearing an armband is protected under the First Amendment. This case stands as a milestone in American law, showing how schools balance authority and the students' rights to this day. It reminds us that protecting free speech, even when it's unpopular or inconvenient, is essential for preserving democracy. Thank you.